There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. It's a new week and you're tuned in to the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. What a great way to kick off your week, Tim, isn't it?
It is a great way to kick off your week.
Yeah, tuning in with your two best buddies in the paranormal world, Dave and Tim. I thought that was a nice way to start.
Well, yeah, it's a great way.
Broadcasting live on tape from Layton Broadcasting here at KNSI in St. Cloud, Minnesota, who's kind enough to let us use their studios to bring these shows direct to you. So make sure you give them a little love. Visit KNSI Radio.
Can I tell you a secret?
What?
I never left.
You didn't?
No, I've been sleeping in a small closet. Is that creepy?
Kind of goblin-like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hanging in a small closet? You never leave?
No, don't tell Bob.
I'm telling Bob.
No, don't tell Bob.
This is getting weird, Tim.
I just come out at night and I get a little something out of the snack machine and I go back in the closet.
You scare me. You're absolutely terrifying.
I like it here, Dave.
Do you?
Yeah.
You frighten me. I'm not going to lie.
All right.
We've got a great week lined up for you, full of shows. But as promised, we're starting off with supernatural news. We're going to do a smaller supernatural news segment tonight, and we'll do more Parashare to make up for last Monday when we went long on supernatural news and talking about Paisley Park and King Kong and Logan and just kind of riffing on different topics. Tonight, we're going to get in a little bit more in depth with supernatural news and Parashare. So, Tim, let's get right into it so we can fit in as many stories as we can in the next half an hour here. Where shall we begin in the world of supernatural news?
We're going to talk about a young teenager who was freaked out about a shadowy figure.
A shadowy figure?
What is a
spotowy?
It's my Elmer Fudd language, Dave.
Okay.
I'm developing it on my own. I figured after we talked to a linguist last week, I should develop my own language.
No, I think there's enough languages out there that are incomprehensible.
But everybody's texting these days, Dave, and I feel we should have a new language. Shadowy figure.
All right,
Dave?
so you've got a spotty, shadowy figure.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
In her selfie while she was out fishing with her grandparents. This story was quite the rage, or has been quite the rage the last couple of weeks on Facebook and other social media. A young teenage girl was freaked out when she spotted a mysterious ghost man in her selfie while taking a fishing trip with her grandparents. Haley Ogletree, who's just 13 years old, was spending the day with family to celebrate her brother's birthday.
Aww.
But after taking a commemorative snap of the occasion, Haley from Georgia, right here in the U.S., spotted something sinister in the back of her photo.
Sinister, you say?
Dun, dun, dun!
What did they find?
Well, if you look closely at the photograph, which you can't see because it's a podcast, Dave.
But you can Google it online, I'm sure.
You can, yeah. Standing on the right of Haley's brother appears to be a shadowy figure of a man, Dave. A man!
That is weird looking.
Wearing a cap and a collared shirt and smiling for the camera. Oh, there he is right there.
Yeah.
Look at him. He's kind of oily.
It kind of looks like one of those ghost captures, but it doesn't.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, but it
the ghost capture app. But this it looks more out of place. That is weird.
And it kind of almost has the same smile as Haley. No.
Yeah. Maybe it's her past life revisiting this life.
Oh, yeah.
In a time loop from hell.
Dun, dun, dun!
Good God. Don't blow out your teeth, son.
I almost did.
All right. So,
but mysteriously, the family claimed there was no one else with them on the trip. And certainly not standing with them by their vehicle. In fact, Haley and her grandparents Didn't see anyone else fishing near them in the area all day. On Facebook, Haley's mother, Jessica Ogletree, wrote, Facebook friends, check this out. This picture was taken by my 13-year-old daughter earlier today at Paradise, the fishing place in Tifton, Georgia. Notice my son Colton in the background, and then notice a gentleman standing to his right. Y'all is the way she wrote it. I kid you not. This gentleman was not with them today, and there was no one else at these back ponds where they were fishing. The only people there today were Haley, Colton, and their grandparents, Dennis and Vera Baldry. She also went on to write, Haley was going back through her pictures and saw this, and needless to say, freaked out and called me. I personally think it's pretty cool because today is Colton's birthday, and he caught the biggest fish he's ever caught, and it looks like the man is happy for him.
Oh, that's a boy?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought that was a little girl in the foreground.
Well, Haley's in the foreground.
Oh, yeah.
But
Okay.
Colton
there
is
we
a
go.
little
All right.
boy whose birthday it was.
Oh, well, happy birthday, Colton.
Yeah, happy birthday. You caught a
Happy
ghost, too.
boo day, Colton. I don't know why the ghost sounded all Transylvanian cartoon
I
vibe.
don't know, but interesting nonetheless. Well, just in time for you to believe in a ghost that went fishing with a couple of young kids and their grandparents.
So that song is Down by the Old Fishing Hole.
Yeah.
It was the theme of the Andy Griffith.
Yeah, and just in time for you to feel all warm and fuzzy about that and get all nostalgic, comes along a physicist who's just going to crap all over your theory about ghosts.
Oh, it's got to be Brian Cox.
Yeah, it is.
Is it?
Yeah. A physicist has just explained why the Large Hadron Collider, the one that's going to kill us all.
Oh, my God. Tearing portals in time and space.
Yep, disproves the existence of ghosts. And please, people, don't write me emails saying, Tim, it's not going to tear a hole in time and space. It's going to, eventually.
It's not going to.
We eventually are going to lose control of all science, and either a Terminator is going to be born or we're going to tear holes in time and space.
She blinded me with science.
It's going to happen. Recent polls have found that 42% of Americans and 52% of people in the UK believe in ghosts, a huge percentage when you consider that no one has ever come up with irrefutable proof that they even exist. But we might have to...
It's because of Scooby-Doo and his pals.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're always busting ghosts.
And why would you not believe Scooby-Doo?
Right. Well,
I mean,
that's
come
true.
on.
Well, no, but he never finds ghosts. It's always mean Mr. Mustard who hangs out down by the haunted amusement park.
But in the meantime, they see them, Dave, and they're pretty darn, until the end of the show.
An illusion. The plan would have worked if it weren't for those meddling kids and their blasted dog.
Yeah, but if you were high and eating all the time, you'd think everything was a ghost too.
That's true.
See? But we might have had proof that they don't exist all along because as British theoretical physicist and general cynic and crapologist Brian Cox has recently pointed out, I'm sure he's a smart man, there's no room in the standard model for physics for a substance or medium that can carry on our information after death and yet go undetected in the Large Hadron Collider. Because he climbed in personally inside of it, Dave, and tried to find out for himself. No, I'm kidding.
It's like when my cat got caught in the dryer.
Yeah, it's the exact same theory.
Pleasant.
No. If we want some sort of pattern that carries information about our living cells to persist, then... Do cats act like dryer sheets, by the way? I'm curious.
No,
they don't?
Put them on fluff cycle. No, don't ever do that. No. That's dangerous.
Then we must specify precisely that or what medium carries that pattern and how it interacts with the matter particles out of which our bodies are made, Cox went on to say, who's got the funniest last name when you're munching Cheetos and you're a little high. From their University of Manchester, that's where he's from, explained in a recent episode of BBC's The Infinite Monkey Cage, which, by the way, is great after you watch The Big Bang Theory.
I thought that was like a Hardy Boys book.
It is, I think.
Yeah.
We must, in other words, invent an extension to the standard model of particle physics that has escaped detection at the Large Hadron Collider. That's almost inconceivable at the energy scales typical of the particle interactions in our bodies, said Cox. Astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, who was also on the show, replied, if I understand what you just declared, you just asserted that CERN, the European Center for Nuclear Research, disproved the existence of ghosts. Yes, said Cox. It's become glaringly obvious that the standard model of physics is an incomplete theory with several gaping holes that physicists have been trying to patch up for details. But Cox says the existence of ghosts doesn't fall within the known unknowns of the standard model. Instead, he says it directly contradicts one of the most rigorously tested and fundamental laws of the universe as we have, which is the second law of thermodynamics. The second law of thermodynamics, by the way, can't be broken, and you can't get a ticket from it by the state police. However, it does state that the total entropy of an isolated system always increases over time. What does that mean, Dave?
I don't know.
I don't either. No, it means entropy is a measure of the randomness or disorder within a closed or isolated system, and the second law of thermodynamics states that as usable energy is lost, chaos increases. And without extra energy being put into a system, that progression towards disorder can never be reversed. Had that not been written down, I couldn't tell you what it means. Just saying.
You even have it written down. I still don't think you know what it means.
I don't. In other words, energy is always lost to heat in any system, whether it's a washing machine or a dryer or the universe, and you never get back all the energy you put in. Ain't that the truth, though? I mean, if you think about it, the principle can be used to explain why the arrow of time only ever marches forwards, why there's a past, future, and present, and why you can't unscramble an egg because it would lower the universe's entropy. That almost makes it sound like time travel is impossible. The way that they put that in the article.
Well, I think they're hiding it, Tim. They can't tell you that time travel is possible because then people will start using it for illicit means. They'll start using it to go back in time to introduce their parents and play Chuck Berry tunes for Marvin Berry, his cousin.
I see.
And things will go horribly awry. If anything, 80s movies have taught us, Tim, it's that time travel should not be mucked about with.
I see. So how does this apply to ghosts, you may ask?
That's what I was about to ask. How does this apply to ghosts?
It says because we can't touch and interact with them, ghosts can't be made of matter, but instead of energy. And if energy is necessarily lost within every system, particularly if they're doing anything that requires using more of it, such as moving, emitting light, or making spooky sounds, it would be impossible for them to maintain their existence for any significant period of time. The second nail in the coffin comes from the Large Hadron Collider because, well, there are things about the universe we still can't find using this giant particle accelerator. What we can see very well is the way energy drives our cells' information. If we assume that the energy that sustains ghosts is entirely new substance or medium, but carries on from what we were living, then this mysterious force controlling the particles that make up our cells would have been detected in the Large Hadron Collider by now. Says Cox, I would say that if there's some kind of substance that's driving our bodies, making my arms move and my legs move, then it must interact with the particles out of which our bodies are made. And seeing as we've made high-precision measurements of the way that particles interact, then my assertion is that there can be no such thing as an energy source that's driving our bodies. Degrassi Tyson adds to this by saying that, while he, like many people, has experienced haunting experiences in the past, he's yet to really find a phenomenon that's defied his complete knowledge of physics, maths, and astrophysics, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't get the very human urge to want to believe in the lingering dead. He says, in that moment, there's a mystery, and it's kind of fun. And that allows me to understand and even embrace the urge that people have to want there to be this deep mystery, such as ghosts or ghosts of ancestors, rather. Degrassi Tyson went on to say, I have a soft spot for what that psychological state is because I felt that intermittently, except I keep exploring and getting the answer. You can download and listen to the entire segment at the BBC's website.
No, thanks.
Cox and Degrassi Tyson go back and forth.
I want to see him fist fight. Was Degrassi Tyson kind of taking the side that ghosts might exist?
He was. He was in the discussion. He was saying that even though there's nothing in the fields of astrophysics and other such fields that suggests that ghosts exist, he'd still like to keep it open to suggestion. And he has had his experiences that keep him hopeful that it's out there. Meanwhile, Brian Cox is saying no way. That even based on what he's throwing all his chips into the Hadron Collider and saying, based on what we've seen on this, there's no such thing as sustaining energy. And if there's no sustaining energy, then what's happening as we die and our spirits go out there, they just dissipate into the universe.
How depressing.
Well, that just means Brian Cox is going nowhere.
No, he probably will. All dressed up and no place to go.
That's right.
All right, where are we going to go next?
Well, let's see here. Let's turn this around a little bit with a man who shares photos and videos of alleged paranormal encounters. So there you go. We'll turn this around and turn it into a positive.
The beat around.
There you go. I love to hear percussion. Charles Brandon claims he can see dead people, and he wants you to see them too, unlike Brian Cox. Ever since
Poo-poo to you, Brian Cox.
Yeah, and your Large Hadron Collider. I want you to look at this Large Hadron Collider here, Brian Cox.
God, you always make it sexual.
Just saying. Well, I didn't say it was sexual. I just said, maybe I have one in my backyard. Ever since the 50-year-old... That didn't sound right either. Ever since the 50-year-old moved into his Brooklyn home in 2010, Charles Brandon has had frequent encounters with what he calls paranormal beings. Doors mysteriously open, cups are thrown, and ghostly visions appear in his mirrors. But Brandon doesn't live in a haunted house like you see in the movies, that he told to AOL.com. He said there's nothing special about this house. Every home has dead people, he said. Wait, they do? Every home has dead people?
Are you calling this guy a liar?
My home doesn't have dead people.
Are you sure? How do you know? I don't like that you're taking this attitude with this guy's ideas, Tim. As a matter of fact, if you guys are irritated that Tim's doing it, give him a call at 612. Well, I thought people should be able to speak up for themselves.
They can email me. It's fine. Email's good.
Or text him at 612. No?
No.
All right.
No. Email's good.
Texting's just so much quicker at 612. No, oh, geez.
It's the same thing.
Okay.
Just an email. I'm good with that. Brandon went on to say that some are just way stations or portals for the dead, talking about houses.
Sure.
Brandon said he realized after a while that it was not his house that is particularly special or haunted. It's him. He's haunted.
Really?
Oh, my God. They're trying to get my attention because they think if they get my attention, they will be removed from the house, he told AOL. The powers that be will take them away. They don't want to be here in this realm. Well, then, Travelocity has some good deals this time of year. Just saying. He said he's been given a special gift through which he can telepathically communicate with the dead, but he doesn't know how it happened. I think the spirit saw what I was going through and that I just kept taking all the bad things that happened in my life, and they were impressed, he said. I'm like a 21st century Job. I've been through every trial imaginable. Well, has he been to the People's Court, Dave? That's what I want.
Dun.
Right.
Dun. We just lost Judge Wapner.
We did.
Yeah.
Although he wasn't still on the show. I mean, that would have been tragic if he would have just passed right there.
98 years old, I think he was.
Yeah, he was pretty old.
Dun.
Yeah.
Dun.
Now it's Marilyn McCoo, isn't it? Isn't that the judge?
From the Fifth Dimension?
Yeah, from the Fifth Dimension.
No, it's not.
It's Marilyn Judge. Marilyn McCoo is the judge now on the People's Court.
Up and away in my beautiful balloon.
Brandon claims he can summon spirits, and he thinks that anyone can see them when they are present.
Mecca-lecca-hi, mecca-hiney-ho.
Ooh,
Mecca-lecca-hi, mecca-hiney-joe.
I would like to see Jambi someday.
Jambi?
Yeah, he just shows up. Yeah.
I used to love going to Jambi Juice.
Oh,
yeah,
it's good stuff. He wants to share the spirits he sees in his home through his YouTube channel, A Brooklyn Haunting. That was the Eddie Murphy movie, wasn't it? The one that did
that's
really
a vampire in Brooklyn.
Okay. Where he has shared some of his hundreds of videos. He has hundreds of them, Dave.
Hundreds.
Brandon's not a ghost hunter or a medium. He thinks of himself more as a civil rights activist for ghosts.
That's good.
Just what we need.
Right to afterlife, man.
That's right. He's currently unemployed and seeking funds to be able to start his own spirit summoning television show where he will hopefully prove his critics wrong. One of those critics is Michael Shermer, a noted skeptic of the paranormal and probably has his head screwed on better than this guy. The best-selling author of Skeptic, Viewing the World with a Wandering Eye. There are no ghosts, said Shermer, just sights and sounds and hallucinations inexplicable to ghost believers. that they fill in with preternatural beings. Shermer told that to AOL in response to Brandon's claims. Time and time again, people have told Brandon that the spirits he documents are not real. People say they're dust balls, and I'm willing to say that maybe some of them are, Brandon said, but dust balls don't come in beautiful colors, whip around at unbelievable speeds, and take verbal commands. Well, they do if mice are attached to them. I'm just saying. I've trained the mice in my house. Oh, we have a wonderful circus. Many have claimed to see ghosts over the years, and skeptics like Shermer blame it on various factors such as emotion. With billions of people having billions of encounters every day, there's bound to be a handful of extremely unlikely events that stand out in their timing and meaning, he wrote in Scientific American. Shermer debunked his own seemingly paranormal experience in which he and his new wife thought they heard a ghost speaking to them through the radio. He said that personal anecdotes do not equate scientific evidence that the dead survive or communicate with us. Nevertheless, Brandon is constantly frustrated, Dave, that no one seems to believe him. But there's not much else he can do besides keep trying. You don't choose the paranormal, he told AOL.com. The paranormal chooses you.
Fact, son.
Fool. Yeah, and then he puffed out his chest, and he's like, you don't choose the paranormal, boy. Paranormal chooses you.
You get a lot of free time over the weekend, don't you?
I do.
Being locked up in a closet here at the old studios at KNSI is not a good plan for you.
I think I've been eating paint chips in the closet, Dave. I don't think those are potato chips.
Huff and glue?
They taste mighty toxic.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. And that's the name of that tune.
All right. What else have you got for us?
Well, there's an astronomer out there speaking of claims that claims that there's a dimension where our minds and the paranormal connect. They just connect right up.
Really?
Queen Mary University of London professor of mathematics and astronomy Bernard Carr believes that there is an unfathomable dimension that our consciousness interacts with. The concept of dimensions beyond our conception isn't new. Albert Einstein theorized that there are 4 dimensions. Count them 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
Today, I just went into Sesame Street mode there. Today, many physicists believe that there are at least 10 dimensions. Why?
Why?
Because they always like it bigger, Dave.
Oh, who doesn't?
Yeah. But Carr believes that there is another dimension that exists in which paranormal entities...
A dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind. The signpost up ahead reads, "Welcome to the Twilight Zone."
That would be the 11th one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This dimension exists in which paranormal entities can connect with our consciousness. The Twilight Zone.
Okay.
In the dimension that Carr envisions, he says that there is a hierarchical structure in which humans are placed at the bottom. Why?
Why?
Well, because we aren't that special.
All right.
Yeah. Carr writes in a conference abstract, the model resolves well-known philosophical problems concerning the relationship between matter and mind, elucidates the nature of time, and provides an ontological framework for the interpretation of phenomena such as apparitions, out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, and dreams. The professor reasoned during a recent talk at the EuroPA conference that if the dimension is thought about, it exists. Carr says an essential feature, I'll get that right eventually, is that it must involve consciousness, since this underlies all psychic experiences. This already places it at loggerheads with those physicists, or the majority, who claim that we are close to a theory of everything, since such theories make no reference to consciousness. Another feature of the new paradigm is that it must involve some kind of higher dimensional reality structure, he continued, since the only non-physical entities in the universe of which we have any experience are mental ones, and since the existence of paranormal phenomena suggests that mental entities have to exist in some sort of space. Carr concluded that this has profound consequences for physics, psychology, parapsychology, and philosophy.
Interesting.
So there you go.
Hey, we mentioned a couple of Zach Bagans stories last week.
Yes.
And I told you that I knew about one item that he had that is not public knowledge yet.
Right.
Well, TMZ is reporting, Tim, Zach Bagans' world's most haunted object is now his. But don't open it, Tim. Zach Bagans just scored the scariest piece of memorabilia to add to his twisted collection, the original Dybbuk box that inspired the movie The Possession. The Ghost Adventure star tells TMZ he bought the wine cabinet allegedly haunted by a Dybbuk a restless evil spirit that can possess the living. If you're a believer like Zach, he says he bought it from the guys who lent its evil backstory to the 2012 horror movie. The Dybbuk, which is Yiddish for malicious spirit, is commonly known as the world's most haunted object, which explains why Zach paid tens of thousands of dollars for it, Tim. Tens of thousands, while you and I sit here and make tens of dollars.
I know,
He's
right?
spending tens of thousands of dollars on it. We're told that he plans to showcase it at his haunted museum in Las Vegas, but will not display it opened. He genuinely too terrified to do that. You'll have to be over 18 and sign a waiver just to view it. He also owns the Michael Jackson Propofol chair and Dr. Kevorkian's Deathmobile and Peggy the Haunted Doll, reportedly, Tim.
Really?
So there's a lot going on there. You know, he also has the he has a really weird cauldron that was part of Ed Gein's collection that he kept body parts in.
Yeah.
So he's got that in his collection, too. As soon as the Haunted Museum opens, he's going to let us know so we can mention it, and we'll be talking with him on air about that.
Very cool.
All right, where are we going next?
We are headed to a hospital, Dave.
Oh, no. Are you feeling all right?
Well, I am, but and I've spent way too much time in them lately.
Way too much, yeah.
Yeah, but there's a hospital staff that stared away in horror as a ghost opened a door in the CCTV clip. It's They evidently don't see enough ghosts there in the hospital. And that's something we've covered quite a bit of lately here on Beyond the Darkness, talking about hospitals and haunted hospitals. The employees watched in horror as a CCTV video shows the moment a door, which is not electronic, appears to swing open. They believe the bizarre clip captured a moment that a ghost pushed open a heavy hospital door. Staff at the Hospital Parajon Ortiz de Familia in Argentina, Dave.
Don't cry for me, Argentina.
She was supposed to ban a myrtle.
That's all she wanted. Not much to X for. Come out, get your tickets for the Chicago premiere of the brand new Eviter.
It's gonna be great.
All right.
We're baffled after watching the video. They were baffled.
Baffled.
In it, the door opens inwards into the building and is pushed back against the concrete wall, but no one can be seen in the clip, and nobody was seen entering the hospital grounds. Those who have watched the footage are convinced the culprit behind the phantom door opening has to be a ghost. According to the staff, it isn't the first time paranormal activity has been deducted. It says deducted. Wouldn't it be deduced?
Could be.
In the same hospital. Ghost sightings in corridors, strange noises, and abrupt drops in temperature have all been reported by employees. They also suggest that the creepy incidents are more common at night than in the daytime. Bizarre rumors circulating the hospital include a theory that the ghost is a former doctor playing jokes on his colleagues and patients.
Oh, he's a zany doctor, Patch Adams, haunting the place.
Yeah, little Patch Adams action going on there. Earlier, paranormal investigators lifted the lid on the spooky history behind a ship moored in California. They're talking about the Queen Mary here in the end of the article, known as the most haunted location in America, and now attracts thousands of brave tourists, and that's the name of that.
All right, pick two of your favorite last stories to wrap up with supernatural news this week, and then we're going to dip deep into the Parashare subject on our show.
Ooh.
Yeah, what stories do you have? Give me some topics.
Let's
oh, yeah, do that one.
Do this
That's
one.
bizarre.
It
even says that right in the title, bizarre footage.
Bizarre footage of a possessed gunshot victim is giving the whole world nightmares right now. To borrow a phrase, according to this man who wrote this article, he's been from one end of the internet to the other, but he's seen a lot of strange stuff, but honestly has no idea what the whole holy ding-dong hell biscuits is actually going on in the clip below that's in this article. It's not even certain where the footage originated, but it appears to have first appeared in Brazil's Canal R1. Shortly afterward, it was snagged up on multiple sites around the world. Thanks to social media, it's now managed to terrify hundreds of thousands more viewers since. The unnamed man in this video is bleeding profusely from the mouth, growling, laughing, and raving, contorting his body as he shambles through a hospital corridor. The descriptive text indicates the footage was recorded the morning of February 27 at Miguel Couto Municipal Hospital in Brazil.
And he's making all kinds of howling and weird noises. Mm-hmm. Let's hear that.
And that
Get on up. Hit me now. Get on up.
That's just James Brown.
Yeah, I don't think that sounds disturbing. It just makes me want to get on up.
Yeah.
No, do we have the actual audio? Can we hear a little bit about it?
We do. It says that the man's injuries were the result of a gunshot to the face.
Wow.
God. A gunshot to the face thing.
All right. So.
Pai nosso que está no céu, santificado seja o vosso nome. Venha a nós o vosso reino.
That is creepy.
A vossa vontade. Assim na terra como no céu. E com o nosso cada dia nos dai hoje. Perdoa as nossas ofensas, assim como nós perdoamos nossos pecadores.
Whoa.
Now, the possessed guy is the one making all the laughing noises while the other guy's trying to talk him down. And this guy's like walking in crab-like method, kind of side to side, and his body's arched like a C backwards.
Yeah.
It's freaky.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, if I got shot in the face, I don't know that I might not be reacting weirdly too. Because have you ever stubbed your toe? I contort my body, Tim. I posted earlier last week about this. Women, I have more respect for you because you can push an entire human being out of your love nest and just like, and then order a cup of soup a half an hour later.
Right.
I stub my toe and I'm begging for the sweet release of death, Tim, to get me out of this. If you shoot me in the face, there's a good chance I'm going to act possessed and be freaked out as well.
I know I would.
Oh, my God.
Some viewers are claiming the subject is demonically possessed. An unseen man could be heard reciting the Lord's Prayer and other incantations while trying to fend the patient off with a chair. So he's likely thinking the same thing. Oof. The author of the article is venturing a guess that the patient has been dabbling in chemistry. In other words, he's got a little bit of the old drugs in him.
A little bit of the sniffing stuff or a little bit of the puff pass.
Maybe he's got a little PCP in him. He's kind of got that look to him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a disturbing video.
That is creepy. Maybe we'll try to post that up on our Beyond the Darkness page as well.
Yeah.
All right. What other last story do you have to wrap up with here?
Australian settlers are using magic signs to keep evil away.
That's
Speaking
right.
of evil.
We got to keep the Rougarou at bay, Tim.
That's right. It's Australian for beer.
That is right.
Mm-hmm. Why would you want to keep beer away? I don't know. Beer. New efforts to collect evil-averting marks show that they were used well into the 19th century. Australians weren't supposed to have used magic, but the first British settlement on the continent was founded in 1788, a time where superstitious practices and beliefs were thought to be dying out, replaced by rational enlightenment and thought. However, in the present day, after Ian Evans saw his first marks, ritual signs meant to avert evil in England, he started looking for them in Australia, too. On a casual sort of visit, he says, he found one of the stables of, I believe it's Sheen.
Okay.
A historic estate about 30 minutes of Hobart, the capital of Tasmania. By all means, send your emails to me. Let me know how it's pronounced. Wow, he thought, they're here, too. Evans is aiming to more thoroughly document these marks through a new Tasmanian magic project. Though they were once commonly used, these symbols have never been systematically recorded in Australia or in England, where they are better known. For years, they were overlooked or dismissed as marks made by craftsmen in the assembly of a building. But as scholars begin to understand what they call the material culture of building magic, there are new efforts to collect and understand these evil-averting signs. In the UK, Heritage England put out a call this past fall for examples of the ritual marks and received more than 600 responses. Evans' project will have its first field season this coming March, and if the project raises enough money, there will be two more later in the year. The goal of these projects is to better understand how and why these symbols were used and to tease out the ways English-speaking people used magic long after they were thought to have given it up. These marks are sometimes called witches' marks, even though Evans prefers to call them evil-averting marks, since there's no evidence that the people in Tasmania believed in witches. One of the most commonly found is... I think that's actually...
believe in devils, I think.
Yeah, they do. One of the most commonly found is the hexafoil or daisy wheel, created with a compass. The shape forms a continuous line. It was thought that evil would be attracted to these shapes and get caught in an endless maze.
I know what shapes I'm attracted to. Hubba, hubba. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll get to some Parashare. We've got your stories here.
Beyond the darkness.
right, we're back. This is Beyond the Darkness, a brand new week. Happy Monday, the 13th. Well, it's Monday, which everybody hates.
Monday the 13th?
It's the 13th, which everybody's afraid of. So Monday the 13th should be the true horrific nature of the beast.
So is this a day that like serial killers can never succeed or get anything done?
You ask a lot of questions I just don't have time for.
I'm sorry.
You confuse me.
I know.
You confuse me.
With my crazy talk.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. We've got, why don't we do this?
Okay.
We've got time for some stories.
All right.
Shall we do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do Parashare. I know we didn't get a chance to do that a couple weeks ago because we had so much fun going on with Supernatural News.
Right.
We did a little bit of Supernatural News tonight. I think we're going to fill the rest of the show with Parashare stories.
Sounds good to me.
Hello, my name is Zan.
Hi.
X-A-N. Is that how you would say that? Zan?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or my name is Xan.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of the show and listen every day. I have 2 stories to share. To begin the stories, I will need to explain a few things first. For a long period of time, I would wake up within a few minutes of 3 o'clock every night suddenly with little drowsiness. So I can't really blame what I saw on just being tired. I suppose my biological clock was out of whack at the time. Anyway, one night upon my waking, Tim, I looked out of my bedroom door, which I like to keep open, and saw what I thought to be my mom in her work uniform. I saw the silhouette of her hat and utility belt. Was she Batman?
I believe so, yes.
My first thought was that she had signed up for overtime on a graveyard shift and was coming to tell me goodbye for the night. However, she didn't move and stood looking at me, I think. Anyway, I was somewhat confused and called out, "Mom?" No answer. So I tried again, "Mom?" This time the response came, but from my parents' bedroom, as my mother asked what I needed. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
I sat up for a moment before doing the whitest person in a horror movie thing and hopped out of my bed to try and feel for the figure I was seeing. Oh, no.
Never.
Zan.
Never.
Zan.
Never.
What?
Huh?
I stuck my hands out in front of me only for my hands to hit the hallway wall. But then I was quite freaked out. I hopped back into bed where I could no longer see the figure and could now see the wall behind it. You have to understand that the hall was fairly well lit already. Moving on a few years down the road, and a similar instance occurred. Once again, I woke up to see this figure in my room, and once again I mistook it for my mother coming in to check on me. Upon coming home from work, during this time I would wake up to visit with her before going to school. I got up to follow her out, but couldn't find her in our house. I decided to look at the clock and saw that it was about 5 o'clock, an hour after my dad would leave for university classes, and an hour before Mom usually returned. I've told these stories to other people, and they thought my experiences described a guardian angel. However, I only experienced dread over these occurrences. So what are your thoughts? I'd love to hear, and thanks for reading. That comes from Zan. I think it's Alexandria.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know. It didn't do anything. It wasn't like posturing in a negative way. It wasn't seeming to be aggressive. So you may have been more shocked and awed to be seeing. So people react differently to those kind of experiences.
I see.
What would you say? I mean, do you think it was evil just because she felt disturbed by it?
No, I think some people can react differently to
a guardian angel. Maybe. We've talked about that. I call them the watchers, these dark shadow-like figures that seem to watch us while we sleep.
Right.
Because if you believe in astral projection and you believe that happens most nights, like some experts will say, then it would lend itself to believe that your guardians would be there to watch you while you're most vulnerable.
I tend to believe people overreact when things happen.
How dare you, Tim? What do you mean we overreact? I never overreact.
Well, Dave,
why do you always assume people overreact,
Dave,
Tim?
You're overreacting.
No,
right
it's
now.
your opinion, jerk.
But I think you're right. It could be something other than something evil.
Hello, Dave and Tim.
Why, hello.
That's the way this next email begins.
Hello there.
What were those 2 little chipmunks that talk like that? They were super nice to each other. Not Chip and Dale. Do you remember those?
Right.
No.
Right.
Go.
Yeah.
Or were those gophers? I can't remember. Anyway, I've been looking for good paranormal shows, but I couldn't find any. Till I found out about you guys from Talk is Jericho, and I've been hooked. So thank you for the amazing podcast. No, thank you. Now, you can call me Mo. I'm 22 years old from Bahrain. Bahrain is a tiny island country in the Mideast, baby. Here's a quick geography lesson for you. I'm a big believer in the supernatural and always keep an open mind. I have a few stories for you, but I'll just tell you one and I'll leave the rest for later. Oh, you Bahrainian bastard. You tease.
Why?
I don't know.
Why?
Because they want to come back. They don't, if I tell all their stories in one show, they're done.
No.
But they get that little taste of fame every time we read a story. Jeez. I gotcha. Just don't make us wait long. Oh, he says, next line, Tim, we didn't get there. I should have gotten there. He says, just kidding. I wouldn't do that to you. All right, I take back the Bahrainian bastard, although that would be an awesome wrestler name.
It would be.
Yeah.
If you ever want to wrestle, give me a call.
Bahrain. I don't think we've ever heard from anybody in Bahrain.
Right. My number is, no, I'm kidding.
612.
No, I'm kidding.
Oh,
just send me an email and we'll hook that up.
Yeah, he's calling him at 612.
No.
Well, I'm just telling him not to call you at that number.
Well, no, it's long distance, Dave. It's
right.
It's
for him, not you. So 612. What?
No. Email's cheap.
Okay, I'll guide you through the timeline and start from the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. It's a little song of music for you, Tim. Some 8+ years ago, I fell in love with horror movies. Yes, I was terrified of them, but that's the beauty of horror movies. I was always scared when I left my room at night, always looking around and watching my back, scared that something would get me. Now, I know that it's a stupid logic because if there was anything out there to get me, it can easily get me in my room. But hey, my room always felt safe. It's because it stunk. You know, that teenage boys stink. Yeah. The monsters don't even want to go in there.
No.
And, oh, God, they got to, underneath the bed. Monsters, once you're a teenage boy, there's all that crusty tissue and socks underneath there. Yeah. They have no interest. None. No, the demon, that's when they hang out in your closet.
Right.
Yeah.
And even then, that place is scary too.
Maybe yours was. That was my sanctuary.
Your
sanctuary.
Your closet was your sanctuary?
I used to hang out in my closet. I was a very lonely child, Tim. Don't judge me. This was the first ever incident that ever happened to me. Now, let me draw you a scene. A big living room with a window, a door leading outside, and staircase leading to the rooftop. A corridor placed in the middle that has 5 doors. Kitchen is the first door on the left, and my room was the last room on the left. One day around 4 to 5 p.m., where the sun was almost fading away, the electricity went out. There were 3 people in the house, me, my cousin, who is 4 years younger than me, and the housemaid. We all went to the kitchen getting ready to leave. I went back to my room to get something, and while I was in my room, I hear the housemaid and my cousin calling my name. I grabbed whatever it was I wanted for my room and headed back to the kitchen. As soon as I walked in, the level of what the flip on their face was through the roof. I might be a little exaggerating, but they were a bit freaked out. When I asked what was going on, they said that they were calling me because they saw me pass the kitchen door and go into the living room. And when they saw me seconds later coming from the same side and entering the kitchen, they were freaked out because in their eyes, I literally came from the same direction twice. Now, I thought they were screwing with me because we would always scare my cousins with crap like that, so I just ignored it. Now, on to the second incident, Tim. Right. One day, around that time, I was home alone with a friend in the kitchen, and my friend was about to leave. He had his back to the kitchen door leading outside, and I was facing the door. Out of nowhere, I literally see the door handle moving down like someone was trying to open the door. Imagine the door being locked and you can try to open it exactly how it was. It was fast, but the handle was old and rusty, so the sound was crystal clear. My friend turned around and asked if I was expecting anyone. Thing is, my family were out of the country, and I was the only one living in the house at the time. My friend and I froze in shock for a few seconds. Then we went outside to look around, but no one was there. Now, the third incident, the activity around the house. Years later, when I was in grade 9th or 10th, something started to get weird. I would always sense a presence, always hearing whispers outside my window. I'm not going under the bed. Did you see all the crusty tissues?
I don't blame you.
I hear noise from the floor. I was in and upstairs where my aunt lived, not a rooftop anymore. I made sure every time that my aunt and mom were asleep, I would always try and make sense of the voices. Maybe they were cats? Suffering succotash.
They are evil. I mean, yeah.
Maybe they were birds. I thought, but he did. Sometimes it may well have just been a bird or a cat, but sometimes I knew something was off. like the fact that cats and birds talk.
Right.
Yeah. Fourth incident. These noises and whispers went on for some time. Nothing really ever happened until one day we decided to renovate my room and some rooms downstairs. My mom decided that she'll sleep in the living room, but I wasn't comfortable and wanted some privacy, mainly because I used to be a smoker and my mom didn't know. So I moved to a room upstairs. And keep in mind that my aunt was out of the country, so I was the only one upstairs. My mom, the only one downstairs, and we were the only two in the house at the time. So did you jot all that stuff down, Tim?
I did.
Aunt's gone. Nobody else is there. Mom downstairs, him upstairs, only two in the entire place.
Okay.
It was midnight. I wanted to take some quick puffs from my pipe. Ear. So I go to the window wanting to smoke my pipe in front of a construction site for a small building of apartments. I've been inside this building a lot to smoke in peace, and I know it like the back of my hand. I was facing the stairway of the building where windows are supposed to be. I started lighting my pipe up, and I noticed a red light inside the building. Circular red lights, just like eyes. But there was only one, not a pair of eyes. I quickly dismissed it as light coming from behind the building, and in my mind I started figuring out that there is no way that a light can make its way there. There was no holes, no nothing. It was solid brick wall. I was scared, so I put off my pipe and sat on the chair. I was playing some PlayStation. Bed was behind me, window to my left. Facing me is the TV, and the doors facing me to the right. I couldn't stop thinking about the red light when suddenly I hear a sound at the door. I quickly turn, and in a split second, I knew that it was the door handle all over again. I didn't see it move. I was focused on the TV, but it sounded exactly like the door handle. I didn't even want to check outside. I didn't bother asking who it was. I turned up the TV's volume and continued playing in fear. I asked my mom the following day if she came upstairs, and she said that she was sleeping the whole night through. Well, if you see those red lights, you know the best way to get rid of them, right? There's one evocation that always works. Okay?
All right.
You have to take a few cleansing deep breaths. That's where you in through the nose.
Yeah.
Out through the mouth.
All right.
In through the nose. Out through the mouth. Because, Tim, you've got to be envisioning that you're breathing in light into your body, and you're just filling yourself with protective white light. Okay. And upon the third breath, you call out this incantation. Roxanne! You don't have to turn on the red light! I think I blew a node. Something.
Is that what they call it now?
I don't know what this. Oh. Something in my throat literally exploded when I tried any of those notes.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that's the way to do it. Just tell Roxanne to turn off the red light.
Ah.
Yeah.
And that works.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Those days are over, Tim. You don't have to sell your body to the night.
Well, it's fun, though.
Roxanne! That's pretty much it.
You should have attacked it that way, I think. Yeah, you should have went full show tune on it. Yeah.
Axel Merman?
Yes.
Roxanne, you don't have to turn on the red light. That's pretty much it. It's not much, but it's something. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the stuff that has been happening to me, and what do you think it is? I do have one more story, less scary and more of a closure story, but it's a very personal story. I haven't ever told anyone about it, just a few people in my personal circle. If I decide to share it, I'll make sure to send it to you guys. I hope this finds you well, and keep up the amazing podcast. More Parashare, please. And that comes from Muhammad Ali.
No, really?
Well, that's the name on here.
Ah.
Big fan, Mr. Ali.
Yeah. Huge fan.
Yeah. All right, let's see here. What have I got?
Ooh. That's not Muhammad Ali Jr., is it?
I don't know.
You know, Muhammad Ali Jr. got detained at the airport.
Was he coming from Bahrain?
Muslim ban, yeah. He actually got detained by TSA.
Look up where Muhammad Ali Jr. is hanging out. Was it in Bahrain?
Well, yeah.
Bahrain!
I'm glad you went Axel Merman on that deal.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw the story on the news this past week when I was chained to my bed, unable to move, misery style. Yeah,
were you?
That's how they do it now.
You're a dirty bird, Tim. Dirty bird.
I was. Let me see.
Well, you look that up. I'm going to go back to this.
Yeah,
Hello, Dave and Tim. This isn't my story, but because I'm frustrated anthropologist, frustrated because I can't find a job in my field, I'm trying to keep my skills sharp by collecting other people's stories. I live in Portland, Oregon, and in my neighborhood, word has gotten around to my neighbors that I'm always open for a story. A lot of them are pure gossip, and I'm saving those for a paper on micro status changes in progressive neighborhoods. Exciting stuff for us eggheads. But occasionally, I get more unusual stories. Hopefully, I remember to ask all the pertinent questions. If you think of any I forgot to ask, please let me know. I hope you don't mind that I'm changing the names as not to embarrass anyone. My neighbor, we'll call her Annie, is an avid outdoors woman. Ever since I moved to the neighborhood almost 10 years ago, every weekend and holiday, she was off somewhere hiking in the forest, mountains, or high desert plateau. Then, suddenly last September, she sold off all her camping and climbing gear, and after a month of being a homebody, took up windsurfing. Early in January, she knocked on my door and asked if I wanted a strange story. I could tell that something was eating at her, and I invited her in, having just put on a pot for tea. 1 pot of tea and a plate of gingerbread cookies later. What, Jessica Fletcher here from Murder, She Wrote?
Yes.
What the hell's going on?
That's exactly who it was, yeah.
Well, come on in. Let me hear your tale. I had the whole story out of her. Back in September, she had gone hiking on one of those last beautiful days before the winter rains deep in our backcountry of the Columbia River Gorge. She told me the exact location, but I don't feel right about releasing this information. Several hours into the hike, she started to notice a distant stinking smell, like rotting eggs and manure. Oh. By Menon.
I wear that actually in the studio here in close quarters with you. Yeah.
Because she was hiking along a small seasonal creek, she thought maybe something like a deer had disturbed some skunk cabbage in the area. I used to smoke a lot of skunk cabbage in college, Tim.
Boy, I know.
It was a little late in the season for skunk cabbage, but not impossibly so. Not when you're a college student and that's all you can afford.
That's
Tim.
right.
Yeah. The devil's lettuce.
The devil's lettuce. That's one of my favorite terms for it of all time.
Yeah.
The devil's lettuce.
Well, now you can also use skunk cabbage.
Skunk cabbage.
You ever had any skunk cabbage?
Oh, it's been a long
Naughty.
time. Yeah.
Annie said the stink didn't dissipate for about 20 minutes. Then it was gone. As the trail climbed to a higher elevation, which is when she began to feel like she was being watched. Skunk cabbage will give you the paranoia, Tim.
It will.
Because she still had miles to go to reach the campsite, she didn't stop but kept alert, as mountain lions are known to be in the area. Count me out.
Yep.
This went on for about 10 more minutes. Then, as she was coming around a boulder, someone grabbed her by the shoulder and threw her to the ground. Stunned, and with the wind knocked out of her, she lay there for a moment as a short fellow with facial tattoos and a machete threatened her and shouted at her in Spanish. Uno, dos, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Dun, dun, dun,
That's my interpretation. I could be wrong at what he yelled. Okay. It's the only Spanish I know.
He yelled "Wooly bully" at
her? Bully, bully! Wooly, bully! We have a problem with undocumented immigrant gangs growing Mary Jane in the backwoods. Skunk cabbage.
Yeah.
Most of it was cleared up when Washington State and Oregon legalized recreational weed, but gangs still grow for the purpose of selling in Idaho, Tim. Annie doesn't speak any Spanish, but she thought the guy was going to rape and kill her, given that he then straddled her and grabbed her shirt, trying to rip it off of her. That was when the most horrific roar came from the bushes. So loud, Annie says she felt it reverberating in her chest. That was also when she initially placed it at about 10 feet tall, later said it might have only been 8 feet, as she, rather terrified at that moment, hairy person grabbed the guy on top of her and threw him into the trees. Perhaps, needless to say, Annie didn't stick around. She ran back down the trail until she collapsed. About an hour out from her car, by her estimation, when she came around, she was laid out on the trail at the trailhead, covered in leaf litter. She swears she was too far from the trailhead when she passed out, and she certainly wouldn't have had the peace of mind to cover herself in leaves. It was getting on to twilight at that point, so she limped to her car and drove back to Portland. The next day was when she sold all of her camping and climbing gear. Yeah, see, now I don't have to worry about just pumas and Sasquatches.
Yeah.
I got to worry about tattooed buffoons trying to straddle me and tear my shirt off, Tim, to get a look at all this.
Yeah.
I asked her if she noticed a smell during the attack.
Like skunk cabbage?
Yeah. Yeah. I asked her what she felt had saved her, and Annie was very hesitant to answer, but of her own volition finally said it had to be a Sasquatch, because I felt I had to play the devil's advocate at the time. I asked her if it couldn't have just been a hunter in a ghillie suit. She shook her head and was very adamant that a hunter would have used a gun and not thrown a guy a good 20 feet. Also, she added, she didn't think any human could make the sound of that roar. Again, I asked her if she noticed a smell during the attack, but she was a little too busy running away to notice. She did mention that she came to, at the trailhead, her clothes had a strange funk on them, but she had thrown them out. They were funky for no reason.
They were funky for no reason.
Or was there a reason? Yeah. Stinky Squatch.
Yeah.
I did ask her if I could share her story, and she was okay with it, but doesn't want to tell it ever again. And if asked about it, will flat out deny it happened. I think I was her confessional that day. We're still on friendly terms, but I've respected her request never to mention it to her again. She windsurfs almost every weekend now, but she refuses to go back into the forest. And to be honest, I don't blame her. One last note. I emailed the county sheriff's office with details about the attack, minus the rescue by Sasquatch. If the guy that attacked her was still out there and alive, law enforcement needs to be aware. And there is a marijuana grow near a walk-in a campsite. Sorry, this was so long-winded, but I wanted to get all the details down for you since I won't be able to ask her to tell the tale again. Thank you for being there. I'm very glad you're still out there making Beyond the Darkness. Much love, best wishes, and a whole lot of health. That comes from Sarah in Portland, Oregon, Tim.
I only have one question, and that is, Annie, are you okay? Are you okay, Annie?
No, Tim. I believe what he's saying is, Annie, eat your oatcakes. Annie, eat your oatcakes.
Eat your oatcakes, Annie. Yeah. Right.
I'm not,
I'll do that too.
Because you've been struck by a smooth Sasquatch.
Right.
Yeah. Sasquatches do not like. Speaking of, I don't like on these days, Tim, when I stare into your eyes, because you've got a different look. There's something. Your eyes look off. Have you been possessed, son?
No.
When you were in the hospital, did a spirit enter you?
Well, I don't know. They did have me knocked out for quite some time. Just saying.
Hello, Dave and Tim. I'm a huge fan of the show, and although I didn't know about you guys until your appearance on Talk is Jericho, I've been listening religiously ever since. I work a lot of 12-hour shifts. That's shifts, Tim.
Oh, shifts.
Where I work.
Right.
So your shows have definitely helped me get through some of the more boring shifts. Tim. Shifts. Yeah. Okay. Especially after you guys moved to 5 days a week. Thank you guys for the insightful and thought-provoking entertainment, and keep up the good work. Anyway, here's what happened. About a week ago, I was coming back home from the laundromat at about 9 p.m. As I got out of my car, started walking to my front door, something in the sky caught my eye. In fact, there were 4 things that caught my eye. When I looked up, I saw 4 bright orange balls of light in the sky. Now, as much as I want to believe, and I believe I have had a true UFO encounter and have some truly mind-opening brush with extraterrestrials, I tried to remain as level-headed as possible and not jump to conclusions. When I saw these balls of light, I immediately thought they might be some kind of Chinese lanterns that people in the area had released into the sky. The problem I saw with this was, though, that it was overcast and raining this day, which doesn't seem like the most opportune time for those to be put into the sky. One main reason I thought was that the lanterns, one of the reasons I thought they were lanterns, though, was there was no noise whatsoever, but they were definitely moving, and the lights looked flickery. That's flickery, Tim.
Oh, flickery.
Right. I guess that's a word now. Like a candle flame. But these lights were traveling in 2 pairs of 2, and distant between the lights in each pair stayed the same. And the distance between the pairs also stayed the same. I watched the lights for about a minute to a minute and a half until they disappeared into the overcast. Then the only other real explanation I could think of would be planes, jets, or helicopters, as I live 30 to 45 minutes away from a hospital, airport, and naval base. The main problem with those, though, is in total absence of noise from those lights, and none of the 4 lights had any other type of lights showing. I suppose you could also throw out one of the excuses for the Phoenix lights for this one and say that they were flares, but these lights were traveling up, not falling back to Earth. I honestly don't know what they were, but I'd love some insight from you guys. I managed to get a minute-long video that I wanted to attach, but I was having problems doing this because of the file size. And while I'm here, Dave, I was wondering if you'd elaborate more on the experience you had in Trout Lake. I was immensely intrigued with that story when you briefly mentioned it on Talk is Jericho, and I'd love to know more. I'm here in Skagit Valley of Washington State, so a trip out there might be in the cards for me someday. Thanks again for listening, Cody M. Well, I've repeated the story numerous times. I'll do it quickly. I went out to James Gilliland's ranch in Trout Lake, Washington. You can find information at eceti.org, eceti.org. And while I was out there, I had seen these lights in the sky, many different lights in the sky doing all types of different things. Some flashing, some just moving at rapid speeds and then turning at breakneck speeds. But the most profound experience I had was at one point, we'd been all watching Mount Adams, I think was the name of the volcano over there.
Yeah.
And we were standing there watching this, and I finally figured, well, what are we missing behind us? So I walked out in the field and turned around. So I was looking behind everybody else who was looking behind me. More eyes on the skies, right?
Right.
So I go there and I'm looking when behind this grove of pine trees comes this internally glowing blue pack. I don't know. It looked like a stingray swimming through the sky without the tail, the way it fluttered. And it emanated a blue light from within, but it didn't glow. It wasn't like it was lighting up the sky. It was just self-contained light. And it kind of fluttered through the sky from behind one set of trees to behind another set of trees and then was gone. And it was so eerie, silent, eerie, but but it looked like a bad 1980s movie video effect. So I was running towards it and throwing rocks between the trees, half expecting to kind of hear the brrrr of a sound of a screen or something that he had back there and he was projecting things on.
Yeah.
But there was nothing. And when I talked to James about it, he told me that it's a half biological craft, which means it's half living organism, half mechanical, Tim. Dun, 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 dun. So it was Terminators from outer space, obviously.
Oh, geez.
And I was a little unnerved by that. I mean, I just saw this thing and I still thought James sounded high, but I don't know how else to explain it. But he says that's how it gets between dimensions. It's half living, half machine, and that it was a craft carrying things. So it's like a living machine with something inside of it. So very fascinating, but that was my experience. Very profound. We also went out there with Paranormal State. And you can check that episode out on YouTube. I think it's called First Contact, Paranormal State First Contact. And you can see some of the lights that we got in the sky and what they were doing. And one of the greatest lines ever uttered on TV by Medium Chip Coffee during that investigation. Yeah. It was like, hit us with your power. It was just hilarious.
It was.
Yeah. One of the greatest moments. All right. Let's get back to more emails, shall we?
Yes.
Oh, you know what, though, Tim, before we go into our next story, I do have a phone call. Totally forgot about this. Joining us now from Hollywood Picture Studios, Steve Sayer is online. Steve, welcome to the show.
Oh, welcome. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you here with me. Let me talk about this. You've got a documentary you're working on called Ghosts, the documentary. It's a first of its kind, truly scientific investigation into the existence of ghosts. What spurred you on to look at doing something like this?
Well, actually, it was my brother Garrett's concept, and it started about 7 years ago, and he started traveling around the world to access various different experts in the field. And as he was doing this, I told him that it would be a very good idea for him to record these various different encounters and interviews.
And was this like the paranormal and the idea of ghosts? Has this always been something that was a fascination of you and your brother?
No, actually not. It was really just the inception of his interest, and it all started really when our mother passed away, as far as he was concerned. And he began to really take an interest in the subject matter. It was really not an interest of his preceding that time.
All right. Now, you've got this documentary that you're putting together. The program stars Kelsey Boland. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, she is the on-camera narrator.
And then you have also, you've got appearances by the legendary medium James Van Praagh, who is the creator and executive producer of Ghost Whisperer, starring Jennifer Love Hewitt. And you have Emmy Award-winning actor Jay Thomas, best known for his role in Cheers, Mr. Holland's Opus, Dragonfly, just to name a few. And then the program is going to present a host of PhDs and MDs who review their extensive research and findings into the subject of ghosts and the hereafter. Now, you guys are putting a call out to the general public to share some photographic evidence that may support the existence of ghosts so that you can add it to the presentation. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. We currently have a series of various different security footage that has captured images of ghosts while it was recording. And now we're just hoping that the general public can contribute their own personal recordings that they may have made, or still photographs, and post them on our Facebook page, which is Ghost the Documentary, all one word, on Facebook. And then if they do so, we'll get back to them if it's something that would actually be able to be incorporated into the documentary.
Oh, very cool. Now, you guys are really trying to be proactive. You're looking at a few celebrities that have an interest in the paranormal and trying to get them to go out on a paranormal investigation as well. When you're putting this documentary together, did you decide, are you coming at it with one belief system or the other? Were you coming at it with that you believe ghosts exist, or that you're not sure and you're trying to find some kind of empirical evidence to prove it?
Well, that's exactly what we're looking for, is empirical evidence to prove that ghosts exist and that consciousness can exist beyond the physical body. And that's why we consulted with the MDs and PhDs doing specific research into that particular phenomenon. And that's really the gist of the existence, or the possibility of the existence of ghosts. Can the conscious mind exist outside the physical body?
Now, after your mother passed, did you and your brother have any experiences you believed was connection with her?
Well, what we're doing is working on that. He's working on that to various different mediums that he's been in contact with. Other than that, he would be the best one to speak to that topic.
All right, well, we'll do this. When the documentary is up and ready to roll and available for the world to see, we'll have both you and your brother back on to talk about the cases, talk about what you found in this kind of investigation, and we wish you a lot of luck. So again, if people want to send you their evidence, if they have photographic or video evidence, they can find you on Facebook at Ghost the Documentary, all one word, Ghost the Documentary.
Yes, correct. And we have, as we said, several security footage of ghosts, which are fascinating, but we'd love to have the public's input as well.
Great. Well, we wish you a lot of luck with that. We will certainly put the call out to our listeners. So guys, if you've got any evidence, and don't give them just straight up orb garbage. If you've got some really compelling photographic evidence that you believe proves you captured a ghost on film, then that's the best way to reach out to them. Go to facebook.com/Ghost the Documentary. You can email it to them there. They can keep in contact with you, and if they can use it in their documentary, they will contact you back. All right, Tim, let's get started. Let's get into some of the stories we've been collecting. Are you ready?
Ready.
Well, you know what? I'm going to hold off before we read the next email, Tim.
All right.
I've got something I want to address with the listeners. Consider this an informational moment with your pal, Dave and Tim.
Okay.
I love hearing from our listeners.
Okay.
Right? I've never had a problem with that. Send us emails. Constructive criticism is great. Constructive being the prominent word in this segment. Mm-hmm. If you want to hear specific guests, what helps us out is if you have links to those guests. If you just shoot me a topic, there's a lot of topics we'd like to cover, but we can't find guests for every topic. As a matter of fact, go try to find a good guest on spontaneous human combustion. There's like one out there and she refuses to talk about it anymore. Huh. So it's really hard to kind of gear up on some topics. But if you have an idea for a guest, you can always email us at dave@darknessradio.com and include any links to people that you think might be an interesting guest. If you have links to their website, their phone number, email address, anything like that, we always take your advice and try to bring guests that would interest you and make it fun for us to discuss on the show.
Yeah.
So that's what we kind of want to talk about. As a matter of fact, this week, Tuesday, we have Zofia Weaver. She's going to join us, and she's got an interesting topic, Other Realities, the Enigma of Franek Kluski's Mediumship. On the whole, doesn't sound real fascinating, but this guy is astounding. You have to hear his story. Mm-hmm. And that he has remained kind of a hidden gem in all these years is simply because nobody was ever able to convert and translate the story into English. But our guest has done that, Zofia Weaver, and she's going to share the story of this amazing medium and some of the unbelievable accounts that surround him. On Wednesday, Douglas Preston finally joins us. He's the author of The Lost City of the Monkey God, a true story, where we get to talk about a 500-year-old legend, an ancient curse, Tim. You got to like that. Ancient curses are always popular, right?
Oh, yeah.
And this amazing mythical mystery that they go on to try to locate this lost land and what happens when they find it. And it's a true story. That's Wednesday on the show. Josie Varga will join us on Thursday. And Josie, she'll be with us on Friday. I'm sorry. A Call from Heaven, deathbed visits, angelic visitations and visions and crossings to the other side. She's Friday. Thursday is Dr. Alexandra Shorin, I believe is her name. Have you been hexed? Recognizing and breaking curses, which is something I know has plagued you, Tim. You believe that there might be a hex in your world. So we're going to talk with this guest and see what she can tell us on how we can truly identify hexes. What exactly is a hex? How does this work? How do we get rid of it? We'll talk about hexes, and that'll be on Thursday's show. So a lot of these are guest topics that are sent in to us by listeners, and we appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Now, one thing, though, I want to start to shed a little light so people understand. We were a 3-hour podcast Monday through Friday. Mm-hmm. And what people don't realize is in a 3-hour podcast, it's about 2 hours of actual talk time. All the rest is commercials, PSAs, breaks, top of the hour news, things like that.
Yep.
So you've got in a 3-hour show about 2 hours of talk time. Mm-hmm. Our show averages between 60 to 90 minutes. Mm-hmm. So you're not missing much from the old show. And now I've got a lot of people, and I think it's funny. It's a free podcast. And I actually have people taking umbrage to the fact that we're sometimes only a 60-minute show. Well, in fact, we do have lives, kids. And sometimes we just do the show to the best of our ability with the guests that we have. Some guests are people that you could put a dime in and they'll talk for 3 hours on a subject. Mm-hmm. Others, it's like pulling teeth to get information from. And then you have ones that their story is encapsulated in nothing more than 60 minutes. But we don't know until we start talking to these guests.
Right.
And we can fill with a lot of fluff and blah, 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 which we've done in the past when it's a 3-hour show. But I'm trying to take it and make it concise and tight and make this a show that you want to listen to, because we're going to get to the meat of the story, the heart of the adventure right away and get to hear the whole story. So we're trying to do that and make it a little bit more accessible. So some shows will be 60 minutes. Some shows will be 90 minutes. If it feels good organically, we will keep the show going as long as we can for that day. We don't want to short anybody. We don't want anybody to feel shorted. However, we would also rather that you leave feeling, hey, that was a great little show. That one was a great little topic. I wish I knew more. We'd rather leave you with wanting more than wishing we would have cut it short by 20 or 30 minutes. We've seen movies like that, right? You go see a movie and you walk out and you're like, God, that movie would have been so much better if it was about 15 to 30 minutes shorter.
Yep.
Well, that's what we're doing, is we're just trying to condense it and give you the best show we can with the time we have. And if it's only 60 minutes, it's 60 minutes you didn't pay for, and you got all that great entertainment and fun and a great topic, and it gives you something to research. Some guests want to give more, others want to give less. So we're going to do our best with the time slots that we have, and we'll make those available to you Monday through Friday right here on Podcast One. Complaining to us or complaining to Podcast One won't do you any good. They're not ever going to make this a 3-hour show. They don't do that. That we got 5 days a week, up to 90 minutes a day is pretty astounding as it is. And we do our best to bring you as much content and fun as we can in that time slot. Mm-hmm. So, just bear with us, folks. That's it. I'm, on one hand, I get irritated easily by some of the emails I get and the bitching and whining. It's only 60. You said it was going to be 90. I have people tell me we promised a 2.5 to 3 hour show, which we never did.
No.
On the other hand, I'm excited that you care enough about the show and want to hear more of it. That's great. Mm-hmm. And, we're bringing it to you. We've got some things in the works for the future that might offer more content along the way. But it might not always be in this vein. It might not always be this show. I can't get into more of it because we're right in negotiations right now. But we're always working to bring you more stuff and more content. And if we can do it, we will. But on nights when it's a little shorter and it's a 60 or 70 minute show, that's okay. Enjoy the 60 to 70 minute show and find something else to listen to, or make some free time to do something you've wanted to do. Right?
Yeah.
But, just don't, when you take the time to sit down and write to us, it means a lot. But I can tell you, for people that write to me with this sense of entitlement that they're getting screwed and that they feel cheated, and, that's ridiculous. It is what it is. It's a free show you get to tune into and enjoy with us. And we're going to make it as fun and available to you as we possibly can for as long as we can. But when you start off letters by calling us chuckleheads or jagoffs or assholes or because we're not doing the show the way you want it to be done, find another show. I don't need to kiss your ass or anybody else's ass to make you listen. You listen to the show because you like us and what we have to offer. And if you don't like Monday shows because they're too loosey-goosey and we have fun and you don't find us funny, there's 4 other days to listen to the show. And taking the time to just spew your venom and hatred because you don't think we're funny and we're dumbasses and we shouldn't waste time joking around on Mondays and it should be straight to the, well, you know, then listen to other shows on Monday. You've got plenty of opportunities. Just here on Podcast One alone, over 225 different shows that you can tune into.
Yeah.
So give them a listen, check them out, and show some support and love for Podcast One. And then just check out our other shows. And if you don't like a topic, don't let it eat you up, folks. Listen to 20 minutes of it. If you don't like it, nobody's forcing you to listen to the entire episode. Turn it off and go find something else. Not every topic's going to be a winner. It's hard when you're doing 5 days a week. Not every guest is an excellent speaker. Not every guest is a good storyteller. But we're trying to bring you the best, and we're trying to bring you a good variety of different topics. But Tim, how often, if I start off by saying, "Hey, dumbass," are you going to even listen to the rest of what comes out of my mouth?
1 out of 10 times.
Right.
And generally, it was my grandfather that would tell me that.
Right.
Yeah, and he was the guy I'd listen to would say, "Hey, dumbass."
Right. And that's all. But I can't believe the rudeness some people share in their emails. You know, you feel that you're all superior sitting behind your little computer monitor, hammering away at your keyboard, and spreading venom and view. I just want you to know, Tim and I don't ever look at that and think, "Oh my gosh, they're right." We laugh at you for being a condescending prick and we move on. And we don't ever take your advice. What I do is I take advice and ideas and pointers from listeners who take the time to gently point out, "Hey, you know what? I was listening and I really like when you do this, but I don't care for this. Is there a way we can change that?" If you have constructive criticism, we will always take that. But if you are so full of anger and vitriol and that you just want to spew it at us, don't bother, because we're not going to read your whole email and we're just going to laugh about it and pass it around to our friends who will also think you're a moron. So just take your time to not waste your time or ours sending us that garbage. You know, again, I love the passion and commitment to you writing, but when you write it nasty, it just doesn't nobody any good.
Yeah.
Who cares? Who cares what you feel when all you have the way to share it with us is through nasty rhetoric, right? I care what you want and what you feel and what you'd like the show to be when you show the same caring and compassion to us. Then I care. And that's the way we do it. And we've changed and we've altered over the 12 years we've done this show. And we've heard what listeners like and don't like, and we try to adjust to that. And we try to make it a part of our show and make things good.
Yeah.
So with that said, for those of you longtime listeners, you know that a segment of our show has been missing for a while now, especially on Tuesdays. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm going to say. Mm-hmm. Later on in the week, we'll have some more information. But next Tuesday, you might want to tune in. Yeah. That's all I'm going to say. Mm-hmm. Check out next Tuesday and keep it going. So just make sure everybody tunes in, not tomorrow. Tomorrow's great. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. Great show. But next Tuesday, the following week, we have a little gift, a little token of love from your pals here at Darkness Radio. So you'll tune in a little later this week and we'll tell you what's going on once we've got it locked in and confirmed. Fair enough, Tim?
Fair enough.
And do you have anything to add to this? Again, I don't want people to think we're soapboxing or anything. And we do love you. We care about you. But it's just, take the time to realize the way you write to us and what you're saying is how it's said will dictate whether we listen or not.
Well, the other thing, too, I guess, is there may be a little bit of a misconstrued opinion that we may be being a little oversensitive to some of these emails, too. But here's I think, to kind of back Dave's point, is that it's not that we're seeing an overwhelming amount of these emails, but it gets frustrating to see them nonetheless. And the internet's become quite the bully pulpit when you don't have a set of cojones on you.
Right.
And
it's really easy to sit at home and fire off just hate-filled rhetoric and knowing that you don't have to look us in the eyes to say it. And I know a bunch of these ballless pricks will say, I'd say it to your eyes. You never do when we're in person.
Right.
So, you know what? When you get the chance to talk to us, but talk to us politely.
And I love when I get one and I shoot back on them because I'm never silent. It's just the way I've learned to be. And they say, I never thought you'd respond back. It's like, well, wait, I thought I could be mean to you and you just wouldn't say anything. Yeah. I thought you were supposed to sit in a corner and be silent. Well, you know what? I never am.
Right.
So don't expect that you can sit
so
back
you heard
and,
that, folks.
and be
Email
that.
Tim at darknessradio.com with all of your hatred, not me, because most of the time I won't respond. And, like I said, when I do, it's thanking you usually for some good advice. I can't respond to every email, folks, first of all. So I apologize for that. Because we get so many emails on a daily basis from people that love the show, hate the show, or have ideas, and we'll certainly try to put them to work. But I can't respond to every email. We try, but we can't always. But Tim says he'll be happy to take all of your hate. I don't want it.
The greatest thing about being on the Jericho Network is now I'm not the biggest prick to answer your emails. Raven is.
Oh,
so yeah.
Wow. Raven, if you want to get in touch with Tim, give him a call at 612.
Raven's got my number.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Name dropper.
I'm just saying that Raven will admit that he hates you all. He enjoys the fact that you can listen to his show, which is the Raven Effect here on the Jericho Network on Podcast One. Small plug for Raven.
Sure.
But he'll even admit that if you come after him, he'll just eviscerate you.
Yeah, see, I don't have time for that. I don't have time to get involved in the hatred and the anger. I just look at it, I laugh, I share it with Tim, and then I move on. Sometimes I share it with other friends of ours because your ignorance is so high that people should, I believe, get to laugh at you. That's my thoughts on it. I could be wrong. But no, I do appreciate you guys writing in, and we want you to know we do love you. And like Tim said, we don't get a ton of angry or hate mail, and that's something else to consider for those of you that don't like Monday's show. For the one email I get that complains about it, I've got 10,000 that love what we do on Mondays. So it's probably easier for you just not to listen than for us to change the way we do things on Mondays because one listener doesn't like it. So bear that in mind. Let's get back to a couple stories here before we wrap up the evening.
Sure.
Shall we?
Yep.
All right. Let's see. Hello, Dave. That's the way this one starts, Tim.
You prick!
I know. I don't see your name on here anywhere. I apologize. I'm sure he meant, of course, to include you, too.
Right.
But, me, my ego sometimes just makes people want to write to just me because they're afraid if they don't, I'm going to take it out on them. Which there's always that opportunity. Tim. I could lose my mind.
You could.
And take out my anger on them.
Maybe.
I don't usually do that.
No,
I don't. Come on. What are you making me sound like the bad guy for?
I'm not.
Always trying to make me out to be the bad guy.
No.
All right. Well, let's go here. Hello, Dave. My grandmother was born in the early 1900s in North Virginia. She passed away on July 13th, 1996, after raising 10 children and helping with quite a few grandkids and great-grandkids. She was a country-raised woman full of backhills knowledge, such as being able to tell you when and how much it would rain just by looking at the leaves on a tree. She experienced numerous paranormal phenomena in her life and was also privy to a great deal of insight that normal people did not have, such as predicting events and, on a few occasions, deaths. She told me many stories before she passed away, many of which can be corroborated by her children. I would like to share with you one particular story that she told me. All right, I'll allow that, Tim.
Okay.
You can share one right now.
Can I just tell you real quick?
No.
I do have some backwoods knowledge as well. I can tell what kind of cheap beer you've been drinking by the kind of urine you left on the trees. So,
good God, you need help.
I'm just saying.
All right, let's go. My grandparents used to live in a small shack in Nokesville, Virginia. The small place was close to a country store named Buddy's Market. Both the house and the store are no longer there, being replaced with a new housing development, as has been most of the surrounding area. I'm not sure how long they lived in this location before moving to a larger house a quarter mile away in 1952 when my father was only 1 year old. There was a back porch which faced a field to the rear of the house. One day, while my grandmother was on the porch peeling potatoes, she heard a small thump at her feet. She looked down and saw a smooth stone was spinning at her feet, as if someone had lightly kicked it. As she watched it, another stone landed, as though it was lightly tossed from somewhere. Both stones about the size of a chicken egg. She looked around to see who was tossing these stones at her, but there was no one in sight. She had a clear view around the entire house due to being in the field. She kicked at the stones, but they were quickly replaced by another. It was as if the stones just appeared 2 feet above the porch and dropped straight down. This continued for the rest of the time that they spent in the house, many years, in fact, anywhere from 5 to 12 stones appearing almost daily, varying in size from that of a pea to the size of a golf ball, sometimes, but rarely, even larger. She would toss them from the porch and eventually developed a sizable rock pile next to the porch. 3 of my aunts remember the rock pile, and 2 distinctly remember seeing the rocks appear on occasion as well. After a little research into the matter, I learned that stone showers are a known but still uncommon event in the paranormal world. Although most of the events report rocks being thrown, hurled, or even falling with enough force to injure or break things, I could find very little evidence of the behavior which my grandmother told me of. Stones gently dropped in a confined location for a period of time as great as what she had witnessed. Now, she never noticed stones appearing anywhere else other than that spot on the porch of the house. The strange phenomena did not follow her to the house they moved into, and from that one, she was not bothered by the experience in the slightest. When asked, she would shrug it off and say, they were only rocks, nothing to be scared of. I guess when you have as much strange things happen around you as she did, you could get pretty jaded at the paranormal. Anyway, I thought you would like the story. Thanks for making the podcast. I listen daily and love it. Thank you. And that comes from Jason Payne. You're welcome, Jason Payne. I'm glad I can produce this entire show by myself, Dave Schrader, so that you can have this to enjoy.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. Tim's here, too, I guess. He helps out on occasion.
I'm over here. Yeah.
Hi, Dave and Tim. Oh, this guy remembers you, Tim.
Hi.
Hi, Dave and Tim. My parashare is from about 5 years ago when I was working overnight security at Starlight Theater in Kansas City. Several strange things happened while I worked there, and I later found out other officers had experiences also. One night, I was in the stage house, and I had this creepy feeling that I was being watched. When I turned to walk down the back hallway, I heard footsteps running up behind me. I whirled around with my hand on my gun, because there shouldn't have been anyone else on the property. There was nothing there, and the sound abruptly stopped. Another night, I was sitting in my patrol car in the parking lot. I looked out across the large field between the theater and the Battle of Westport Museum, and I saw a tall gray figure step behind a pillar. I ran over there, but there was no one there, and no way they could have just disappeared. I frequently saw lights floating in that field also. On yet another occasion, I was walking through the seating area and heard one of the windows open on one side of the turrets next to the stage. The windows had old wooden shutters, and I heard it creak open. I shined my light on it and didn't see anyone. I knew if someone was hiding there, they would have set off the motion detectors on the burglar alarm. Then I watched it slam shut by myself. There was always weird noises like whispering and voices when there shouldn't have been. It was a cool place to work and might be a good place for the Ghost Adventures guys to check out. Thanks. You guys are the best. And that comes from Amy in Kansas City. Kansas City. Kansas City, here I come.
Great barbecue.
I'm going to Kansas City, Tim.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm going out there in July. We're going to head back to the Belvoir Winery, the Oddfellows Asylum.
Yes, the Belvoir.
Yes, it's quite the hoity haunt, Tim. Yeah. We're going to go back out there and investigate with Bill Chappell and Chris Fleming. And if you, the listeners, would like to join me on this excursion, here's how. Simply check out darknessevents.com. Darknessevents.com. Click on the banner and join us, because it's going to be an amazing trip. And there are one-day packages or full weekend packages, so you can come and hear the talks, be a part of the investigation, and have a great time with us. Go check it out at darknessevents.com. We got to get you healthy again, Tim, so we can get you back out and investigating with us.
I'm almost there.
Almost?
Yep.
Hey, Tim and Dave.
Oh.
Tim and Dave.
How you like them apples?
I don't care for the flavor, honestly. Kind of like being Dave and Tim.
Well,
that's the way it sounds best in my head. Now, mind you, I've always been a skeptic, but I've always loved the paranormal, be it Bigfoot, aliens, Loch Ness, or whatever goes bump in the night. It's always been of great interest to me. I've loved your show for several years now after discovering it while listening to an episode of Coast to Coast AM. Now, my story is short and takes place many years ago when I was a kid in the early 80s. My parents and the neighbors were hanging out having a few little Millers in the neighbor's yard, and we kids were playing. It was shortly after dark when we decided it was time to play tag. For those of us that have actually gone outside to play in the suburbs, know that this is a perfect time to play this game. My neighborhood was like most, I'd guess, except ours was near a creek that ran for many miles and passed by several thick strands of trees. So we'd be playing a while when I was running away from whomever it was at the moment when I saw something, a huge, almost glowing white shape walking between two trees in the yard in front of me. It looked like a mixture of the Patterson-Gimlin Bigfoot and one of those costumed villains from Scooby-Doo. It quickly passed behind a tree and was gone and didn't reappear on the other side. I was so shocked and terrified that I couldn't take my eyes from where it had been, that I ran straight into another tree, knocking myself silly. After the excitement of me hurting myself was over, I told my brother about it, and he, like everyone else I've told since, thought the same thing, that I had imagined it due to nearly knocking myself out. But I know what I saw, and that I saw it before I hit the tree, and to this day I can still see it in my mind as clearly as I did that late summer evening. I've gone on to calling whatever I saw Bigfoot's ghost. Have either of you ever heard or seen of anything like what I've described? I've kind of given up really on ever finding out what it was, but any help or thoughts would be much appreciated. That comes from Alex Marsh. Well, Alex Marsh, as fate would have it, I have heard of something like this before.
Yeah.
Yes. And we are working diligently to get a couple of guests on the show to talk about Bigfoot's ghost. So as soon as that happens, I will certainly let you know. So you keep tuned in here to the best in paranormal talk radio to find out more about that. That's it for this evening, folks. We're done. We will be back again tomorrow. Let me look at this again real quickly. Other realities, the enigma of Frank Kluski's mediumship. Trust me, this is an amazing story. When I heard about this, I knew I wanted to share it with our audience, Tim. This is an awesome story.
Yeah.
And wait till you hear what this guy was capable of doing. That's tomorrow night. And remember, if you're bored, you're looking for something to listen to tonight, later on after the show, I'm a part of Coast to Coast. That is the premier overnight talk radio show. And I'll be again on the 25th as hosting it. I'll also be back in April, hosting on April 8th. But tonight, George Norrie has a very special show. It is the anniversary of the Phoenix Lights. So in the first half on this, the 20th anniversary of one of the most witnessed and documented mass anomalous aerial events in modern history, known worldwide as the Phoenix Lights, physician and health educator Dr. Lynn Katai will discuss her experience as a key witness and her research that has been at the forefront of this amazing sighting. And then in the second half of the show, editor, author, and voice of occult and esoteric ideas, Mitch Horowitz, will discuss the inner meaning of Edgar Cayce's positive mind principles and how to use them. He'll also address the ways that current science is validating the metaphysics and work of influential mind control pioneer Maxwell Maltz. That's all tonight on the best in overnight talk radio with George Norrie. For more information and to find stations and times in your area, check out coasttocoastam.com. We want a special thanks to our advertisers, again, our sponsors on the show, TrueCar and Amazon.com for all of your needs. Thank you very much for believing in our show and making sure that you're part of it. Also, check out darknessevents.com for all of our upcoming events so that you can meet us in person or go out and investigate claims of the paranormal and hear from some of the top experts in the world. Check that out, darknessevents.com. For Tim Dennis, I'm Dave Schrader. You've been listening to Supernatural News and Parashare here on Beyond the Darkness.